Todd, if you were advising one of the so-called second-tier candidates who will be on that stage the second night with Joe Biden, would you tell them to train their sights on the former vice president?
Not necessarily, actually, no. One of the problems with the second-tier candidates are they're second-tier. They aren't going to be elected president. So I think one of the things that history has taught us is that second-tier candidates have a chance to become president in the future as long as they don't offend people. One of the things about attacking Biden is, while it might work to bring Joe Biden down slightly, there's no indication anywhere that it ever actually elevates those lower-tier candidates into upper-tier status. In fact, what it does is it turns off some of the voters. So yeah, maybe some Joe Biden voters now don't really appreciate some of Joe's policies after a lower tier candidate attacks him, but they also really don't like that lower tier candidate now either because they made them mad and they made them uncomfortable.
Todd, a follow-up for you. Does Joe Biden have some sensitivity in the way in which he responds if it's to both Kamala Harris and Cory Booker that he faces a challenge, given that they're both candidates of color? And of course, you know, the strength of people of color in the Democratic primary and nomination process is really a serious consideration.
Yeah, Joe Biden's staring right into the reverse pit of doom. So, like, you know, debaters get around and try to make cool names for stuff because we're generally not very cool people. And so the reverse pit of doom is this. Here's what happens in this debate. When Kamala Harris brings up issues of race again, Joe Biden's got to be very careful because if he decides to go on the attack, which he says he's going to do, but if he does that in any way that's imprecise in his language or in his tone, he's setting himself up for a new criticism, which is what I'm calling the reverse pit of doom. So, for instance, let's say that Joe Biden attacks back. Here's all Kamala Harris or Cory Booker has to say. They have to say, listen, don't lecture me on racism. I've lived it. That's going to hurt.
Amy, your reporting has been great on how Team Biden is getting ready. You say they've got specific lines of attack for both Kamala Harris and Cory Booker should those challenges come. Explain.
Well, I think, Michael, what they're aiming to do is as an advisor told me yesterday, they're expecting the unexpected. So I think he is going over with his team things that anything and everything in debate prep to make it seem like he hasn't seen these attacks for the first time, to go over them. So he is going to be ready. You're not going to see him kind of take the more statesman-like approach this time. I think he is going to throw punches. And as someone told me the other day, someone that's on his team, I think people want to see him throw a punch because that's part of his problem. He was unable to do that the last time. He is proving that he is the most electable, but he hasn't proven that he's a fighter, and you need to be a fighter when you're up against President Trump.
Amy, I don't want to overlook night one. Night one, among others, features Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. My perception, and I think borne out by the polling data, is that she is the more ascendant of the two and probably at Bernie's expense. What do you anticipate from those two in particular vis-a-vis one another?
I don't think they're going to be I don't think they're going to throw punches and go after each other. They remain friends, and both allies on both sides say that you're not going to see that. But I do think that they're going to draw contrasts with each other, and there are contrasts. They're not the same type of, sure, they appeal to progressives, but they have different issues. They are, they appeal to different people in that demographic. So I think you're going to see them say, this is what I am for. You're definitely going to see Elizabeth Warren try to own that night as she owned the first round of debates. And I think she was probably a little disappointed that she's not going up against Joe Biden this time around, because I think she kind of wants to prove that she is the more electable in that group.
Hey, Todd, you have coached so many collegiate debate champions. Among all who are on the stage both nights, who's got the best chops as a debater, and does it matter in the way in which this all goes down?
Well, it does matter somewhat. In the first debate, I thought the person with the best chops, we had three of them, obviously. Kamala Harris was good, Pete Buttigieg was good, and obviously Elizabeth Warren was good. So they all have particular skill sets. I actually look for Pete Buttigieg to have a good debate because he'll be on the same stage as Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Obviously, his age makes a difference between the two. Plus, remember, he's the more moderate of those three candidates. So I think he'll be able to contrast his ideas nicely with theirs. But at this point, most of the top-tier candidates are quite good at debates. So it's just, do they have a bad debate, and if they do, why?
Amy, final question. What are you most looking for either Tuesday or Wednesday night? What do you most want to know?
I think I want to see if Elizabeth Warren can kind of prove that she is sort of ascendant, as you said, if she is sort of the one to beat this time around, because she has run such a stellar campaign pretty much all the way around. So I think a lot of people are kind of looking for that. And I think all eyes are on Biden. I mean, certainly this isn't his last dance. He is the front runner by far. But I think a lot of people want to see, like I said before, that he is the fighter, that he's not going to be this passive guy, and that he is not going to let people walk all over him, and that remains to be seen.
Amy,
but he has
Todd,
to pick his. Thank you. I'm just going to add, he has to pick his topics carefully when he does want to attack.